Hi, everyone. Welcome again to Testimony Thursdays. I'm your host, Dr. Jas, and this podcast is all about sharing our testimonies that we can help inspire people in the world. So, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And as you know, we start off every episode with a scripture. So, today's scripture is going to be from Luke 12:25 to 26, and it states, "In which one of you, by worrying, can add 1 hour to his lifespan? So if you are not even able to do a very little thing such as that, why are you worried about the rest?" Also, we're going to do two. We're going to do two. Matthew 6:25-34. So this, we're not going to read the whole thing, but it also states, "No one can add 1 hour to their life by worrying." So, oh my gosh, this is one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible because it goes on to talk about how God created the birds and created the wonderful environment that we have, and everything is taken care of. Like, especially living in Hawaii, I can see the miracles of God, and I'm like, I know God is real. Like, when I see just the nature and how beautiful it is in Hawaii, God's gonna take care of everything. And this is a funny story. Like, it's very windy by where I stayed in Hawaii, and a couple of days ago it was this bird flying, and the bird, it would like stop on the tree and then it would try to fly again, and it was like getting held back by the wind, and I'm like, poor bird, just wait a second until the wind calms down. But yes, so that's one of my favorite scriptures because today, I'm going to talk about my testimony of how I overcame failing out of physical therapy school. And I remember being so worried, like my whole first year of physical therapy school, and not having the grades that I was supposed to have to remain in the program. So, with that, it's like we get so stressed out and we worry about things. And it's like worrying is not going to change anything. Like, it's not going to make it better, it's going to make it worse, actually. So, that's just a scripture I love to meditate on and share with people because even today, like, there's still things that I'm worrying about. And I'm like, why are you worrying about that? Like, God had your back the first time, He's going to have it the second time, He's going to have it the third time. So that's just something to think about. But so we're going to talk about my testimony and authorship. And I do have my book present today. So this is 2.76. It is my book about how I overcame failing out of physical therapy. And we're going to go through some things in it today. It's available on Amazon. And I self-published through Amazon KDP. So shout out to them. Like, it was a very the process was challenging. Like, it took me 3 years to write this book, and the book is only like 118 pages. So that just speaks a little bit about my procrastination skills. Um, but I started writing on Google Docs, and I started writing in 2020 during COVID. So this was when I was in my second to last clinical rotation, and I was doing outpatient pediatrics. I loved it. My clinical instructor is amazing. Kristen, shout out to her. And she's still one of my mentors till this day. Like, she is just a phenomenal human being, a phenomenal physical therapist, mother. Like, she's just wonderful. And so I was there during that time, but I ended up getting COVID. And this was 2020, like, so this was serious. And I woke up one morning and I had a sore throat. And for me, it's like, thank God, but I rarely get sick. So I know, like, if I'm sick, something is like going on. So I woke up with a sore throat. And in PT school, you have that pressure of being successful and successfully finishing your clinicals. You don't want to get like pushed back. And my graduation was already delayed because I failed out of physical therapy school, had a petition to get back in. So we're going to talk about that a little later. But so yeah, I woke up with a sore throat, and then I was like, what is going on? And I was like, let me try to push through. Like, I can get through this. I only had a couple more weeks left. Like, it's fine. And then I was like, I felt tired, and I was like getting ready, and I was like, oh, something don't feel right. So I texted her. I was like, hey, like, I think I need to stay home today. Like, I just don't feel well. And she was like, okay, that's fine. So then later that day, I went to go get a COVID test, and it was definitely COVID. And I was just really tired, sore throat. I wasn't really congested or anything like that, but I was just, my body could tell like it was fighting off of something. So I stayed home, and this is when I started to write my book. So how I got the idea for the book was that I saw this post on Instagram, and it was of this lady, and she posted that I failed out of physical therapy school and now I'm making six figures. And I was like, oh, that's so inspirational. Like, I failed out of school, and this was still when I was a student. And I was like, man, like, I need to tell my story too. Like, somebody needs to hear it because that post inspired me. until this day, like I could not find that post. And I thought I saved it to Instagram and stuff, but I don't know. I think maybe back then the features were different on Instagram, so maybe I didn't save it. But so that's when I started writing when I had COVID, and I was doing good. Like I was writing so much, like I almost had the book done. And then my goal was to have it done when I graduated in 2021, but I didn't publish until 2023 because once I graduated, I started working, started making a little bit of money. I was outside, like I was doing a lot, y'all. Like when I first graduated, I had so much fun. Um, and I should have been saving my money. So that's a word for someone, But yeah, so then I got to this point where I was like, man, I'm not gonna finish this book. Like it's too much. And then I was like, no, like I've already written so much, like I have to finish it. And I started following another person on Instagram who I consider my mentor too. Her name is Dr. Lauren Baker, and she is like really big in pediatrics, and she has written a lot of books focused on pediatrics and how to help patients through exercises and patient education. Like she's just wonderful, and her YouTube videos are like so helpful. Like I've given her YouTube videos out for home exercises to some of my patients because the way she explains things and like you can see it like with the through the video, so it doesn't matter what type of learner you are, you're able to soak in that information. So I remember she had a YouTube on how she self-published, and like she is not a gatekeeper at all. She's wonderful. And one of the things she said on there was that your book is not going to help anyone if it remains on your computer. And I was like, girl, get out, because that is so true. Like whatever you're doing, whatever dreams you have, like if it remains in here, it's not going to help anyone. If it remains on your computer, it's not going to help anyone. Like you have to publish it. And she was saying how like as self-publishers, sometimes we feel like kind of like not incapable, but we feel like we got to be a perfectionist. And it's like you're a self-publisher, there's things that you're going to make mistakes on certain things, like something might not be worded correctly, but you're a self-publisher, you don't have somebody backing you to cover those things, and that's okay. So for me, I had to get over that fear of like everything's not going to be right. Like it's okay. And for this book, I feel like it's amazing. Like in the reviews I've gotten, I'm just so thankful that to everyone that has read my book. And yeah, I have a few shout outs before we get started because I'm gonna read a little bit to y'all. It's good. It's good. So first I want to shout out God for giving me this testimony. Because I think I talked about this on another episode, but you don't realize the things that you're going through and how that's going to propel you. So I'm so thankful for that. And then I'm thankful for the person who took the picture on the photo on the front cover and the back cover. And that was through, oh my gosh, I think her name was Money Mo. I don't know her real name, but I'm pretty sure I have it in the book. And she's wonderful. She took my pictures. This was back like in 2020 when she took my pictures. And let me see if I can find it. So yeah, Money Shots Photography. I don't know if that's still her name, but at the time that was her name. And she was great. Like she took my photos back in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she was very encouraging because I told her like I wanted to do this for my book, and like I said, this was back in 2020, and she was like I'm so proud of you. This is my first time meeting her when she took my photos. Like she gave me a little gift and she's like, I'm so proud of you. I know your book is going to be amazing. Like keep going. And then I felt bad because I didn't publish it until later. And I don't even know if she knows like that I've already published a book. But yeah, she was just very encouraging. So I want to shout that out. I want to shout out my line sister, Destiny Dickerson. So she's the one who made the cover art and like put everything on there, make sure everything was great, good to go. And then also my friend from physical therapy school, Ivy Long, and also my other line sister, um, Michaela Jackson. So her last name changed. She got married, so sometimes I stutter on that part. But yeah, they helped me edit my book and just read over it and make sure everything sounds good. So that's another thing. God will place people in your life for purpose and people that can help you throughout creating your dreams. And also with that too, like that's something that they're passionate about as well. So we were able to help each other out in that sense of things. And also, I dedicated my book to my family, my friends, and my mentors because they have been a great support system, and they still encourage me to this day. So yeah, that's a little bit about my book. And when I released it in 2023, I had a book signing and it was so much fun. It was a vibe. It was in Stone Mountain, Georgia. And we had a great time. Like a bunch of my family and friends came out to just hear about the book and purchase copies. So I'm so thankful for everyone who has purchased a copy. And that's another thing, for me, I thought when I released this book, I was going to be a millionaire. I was like, this is it. This is my ticket out of debt. We're here now. And the good Lord said, wait a minute. And I said, all right. So with that, I appreciate every purchase now because I know it's like sincere. Like the people who are buying my book, like I know they're reading it, they're benefiting from it because they'll leave a review or they'll message me. And instead of it being like, if I wanted it how the way I thought it was going to be, I would have been selling so many copies that I wouldn't have had the time to really like connect with people and sit down and just reflect on the book that I wrote. So I'm thankful that it's happening this way. And I'm still praying for the increase that is going to continue to impact people on a much larger scale. So thank you, y'all. Thank you. So let's get into it because it's so good, y'all. My testimony is like, oh my gosh. So this is from the back cover. Oh, look at me. Cute. Okay. So it says, Jasmine, I am writing to inform you that as a result of your cumulative GPA being below 2.80 again this semester, you have been dismissed from the PT program. Those words temporarily crushed my heart and spirit. I felt like a failure. I believed I was going to let everyone down in my life. So that's an excerpt from chapter 7, Failing Fast. So y'all, what the kids say, the young kids say these days when they're like, that's my flex or something. That excerpt was from my dismissal letter from physical therapy school. And now I'm a physical therapist working in Hawaii. Like, what's this giving? What is it giving? What is it giving? Because it's like, wow, this really happened. And at the time, I was so depressed. I was mad at myself, and let's back up a little bit. Let's back up. Let's back up all the way to high school. Okay, let's go there because that's where I kind of start in my book. So let me pull it up. So first, let me name the chapters. So the chapters, chapter 1, why am I here? Chapter 2 is PT School Hard. Chapter 3, study tips. Chapter 4, building relationships. Chapter 5, clinical rotations. Chapter 6, affordability. Chapter 7, failing fast. Chapter 8, conclusion. So it's 8 chapters, and with each chapter, it's at the end, it's like an interactive segment where I put a quote and I put a prompt for you to self-reflect on what you just read in the chapter. So it's really good. Love it. So let me read a little bit of it from the beginning, kind of where it all started. So chapter 1, why am I here? In 2013, my best friends and I were on our way to a dinner to celebrate my graduation from Spring Valley High School in Columbia, South Carolina. Little did I know that this evening would be a defining moment in my life. With the excitement of attending Virginia State University just around the corner, we enjoyed the carefree moments of summer. We were more than likely blasting Ain't Worried About Nothing by French Montana in my hand me down 2001 Toyota Camry through my radio. The radio that barely worked, okay? As we approached a red light at a traffic signal, my best friend in the passenger seat decided to playfully catch the attention of someone driving a black Cadillac with tinted windows. It was a common practice before social media became dominant to connect with people in everyday situations like traffic stops or malls. However, her innocent gesture unintentionally led to a frightening encounter. Child. To our astonishment, the driver of the Cadillac rolled down her window and we were met with a startling sight, a woman holding a gun. She aggressively shouted in her southern accent, accusing us of following her for the past 2 blocks and inquiring about someone named B Man. I'm gonna stop it right there because I don't know who B Man is till this day, y'all. I do not know who B Man is. I tried to go on his Facebook, look him up. I don't know who B Man is. So this, I just wanted to bring it back because I have had so many times in my life. Now, this one was unintentional. This one was clear, like we was just riding downtown on the way to a graduation dinner, dressed like we're on the way to a graduation dinner. We don't know this lady. She does not know us. And it was just, it was a mess. It was a mess. And she was like, y'all looking for B Man? And we was like, who is B Man? Like who? So it was just one of those things, where we was in the wrong place at the right time. And she drove off with her gun, drove off, and the guy next to us, he was in a van. I would never forget. Like after she drove off, we looked to the left, and this man, he was in his van, and he was like, "Yeah, she was about to shoot y'all." And we was like, "Sir, you couldn't call the police? Like, what's going on?" So that I like to start off with that story in my book and like my testimony because life can change so fast. It can change so fast, and something as silly as that, like we didn't even know what was going on, And I started off in high school because I also talk about how I made some choices. Now that time that wasn't my fault, but in high school, I made some choices that I should not have made, and I talk about how I could have ended up dead, pregnant, or in jail, or all three, all the above. And by the grace of God, if I can change, anybody can change. That's what I'm gonna say right there because I was doing things that it's like, why was you even doing that in high school? Like, relax. So that's another part of my testimony. That can be a whole nother book, maybe one day. I don't know. My memory is not the best because of things I was doing, but yeah, during those times, I just I understand. So now I understand, and thank the Lord that social media was not, like how I said, dominant because those things we were doing, nobody needs to see them. I pray to God everyone has forgotten what was going on. But it's like, and that's another thing. We wasn't even doing it for clout, like social media. We was doing it because we really wanted to do it, which is even more terrible. But yeah, with kids, I'm like, you have to keep like pouring into them. Like you have to keep planting seeds and you might not see it today. You might not see the growth today. You might not see it tomorrow. You might not see it, in my case, until 15 years from now. But that's why it's important to have mentors and people you can go to and people who you can talk to honestly because kids are going through so much, especially nowadays. Like, y'all got it, man. Like, y'all going through a lot. So, shout out to them. And recently I found one of my middle school teachers on TikTok and she was just wonderful like in middle school and I'm just so thankful for her. But at the time, in middle school, I wasn't always listening to her. Some things she was saying, she was like, "Y'all gonna go to high school? Make sure y'all do this and that." And I'm like, I'm not doing all that. I'm in high school." So now, finally, at 30 years old, I am now aware of my choices and how important it is to make knowledgeable choices. So that's one thing I like to talk about with my mentees and just the younger generation that choices are so important and God gave us a choice. He said, "Listen, I'm not going to force myself on you. Like you have the choice to do what you want to do, and he prays that we make the right choices and the godly choices. And now I'm at a stage in my life where that is what I'm doing, trying my hardest to do. So that was kind of that. And then in high school, I was a student athletic trainer. So that's how I got introduced with like rehabilitation. And I did not like student athletic training. I was only doing it so I could hang out with my friends. That was that. That was that. We had a great time. It was wonderful. And I just didn't like the first responder aspect of things. Like this one kid, he ended up breaking his leg during a football game, and we had to go out and splint him. And I almost passed out. I said, "Oh no, this ain't for me. This ain't for me." So then that's how I knew like I wanted to be a physical therapist for sure. So then I went on to the illustrious Virginia State University and I talk about my experience and my time there and how I got introduced to my PT school that I went to, Shenandoah University. So with that, that's a whole testimony in itself because for Shenandoah University, I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't even know what a Shenandoah was. I'm like, what is going on? So when I was doing my shadowing hours, this is another like full circle moment. So many testimonies. Y'all have to read the book. Y'all are gonna be like, there's no way this happened, but I promise you, like, it happened. But I was at Virginia State, and then I was like going home for the summers. So I was doing some shadowing hours, and I did shadowing at Dreyer Physical Therapy in Columbia, South Carolina. So when I was doing my shadowing, I was just being nosy one day. Like, I was looking at some of the papers that was on the table, and somebody was applying to work there that went to Shenandoah University. And I was like, that's weird. Like, what's Shenandoah? Like, this is around the time where I'm getting ready to apply for physical therapy schools. So then I Googled it. I just pulled out my phone. I Googled Shenandoah University. And I remember like the requirements to be accepted. Like, I looked at the GRE scores and I looked at the GPA, and I was like, oh, I got that. We in there. We in there. So and then what I really love is that because I love traveling, that's my thing. Like when I was at Virginia State University, I studied abroad 3 times. I went to Cuba, Costa Rica, and Morocco, and all of the times were phenomenal. So I like that Shenandoah University, like as the whole university, not just PT school. They had opportunities for students to travel abroad. They have this thing where you apply to go on like a global citizen project, and you apply, but you don't know where you're going to go. And then once you get accepted, they tell you like where the destination is. I never got accepted to that program, but that's all right. That's okay because I went to Guatemala twice when I was in PT school. So those are just some things that stood out to me at Shenandoah University. So I ended up applying, and I applied to maybe like 7 other schools, and I got waitlisted for one, and then another one. I did like an interview. I think I got waitlisted again for another one. And for Shenandoah, I got waitlisted. But so that's how let me back up again. That's how I found out about Shenandoah. It was from a random paper at Dreyer Physical Therapy in Columbia, South Carolina. So then when I applied, I got waitlisted for Shenandoah as well. But for the interview process, this is another thing, another testimony. So Shenandoah University has 2 different campuses. And for the campus that was supposed to interview me was the Leesburg campus, which is close to DC, like 45 minutes from DC. Beautiful town, very like diverse town, just wonderful. And then the other campus is in Winchester, Virginia, which is a good city as well. Yeah, it's a good city. And so when I did my interview, I didn't get like the interview email of where it was going to be. So I ended up going to Winchester. I'm so ready. I'm so prepared. I went the night before. I was like, look at me, like, oh, I'm about to interview. I'm about to do so well in this interview. It's gonna be amazing. So I go to my hotel the next morning. I'm like ready to go. And I'm like, I still didn't get directions. I'm like, man, maybe they're gonna have signs up or something. And this was in December. So it was freezing outside. So I go to my car, and my car is covered in ice. And I said, oh my, I said, I'm gonna be late. So I'm like turning on like the defroster. I'm like trying to get the ice off the car. Like it's just a mess. So then after that, I'm like, okay, we're good. Like it's ice on the road. So I'm like driving slow and I'm trying to find it. And I'm like, where am I going? I don't even know where I'm going. So I ended up going to like a random building, and I was like, hey, like I'm looking for the physical therapy department. I have an interview for a physical therapy school. And they're like, oh, like you need to go to the other building, like you got to go down here and all that. And I was like, okay. So at this point, I'm getting like frustrated. I'm like, what is going on? And I tried to call, and I'm like, nobody's answering the phone. Like it was just a mess. So I get to the building, and I'm like, hi. And at this time, it's probably like I'm late. I'm probably like 15, 20 minutes late. And I get to the building, and I'm like, hi, I'm Jasmine. Like, I couldn't find the building. Like, I didn't get instructions on where to go. And the lady, she's like, no, I sent you instructions. And I was like, no, I didn't get them. Like, what? No. And she was like, well, it's okay. It's okay. Like, we'll set you up for the interview. And she like put up my information. And she was like, you're supposed to be interviewing at the other campus. And I was like, oh my. I was like, I didn't know. I was like, how far is the other campus? Can I go now? And she's like, the other campus is like an hour. And I said, Jesus. So I thought she was going to tell me to go home. And she was like, it's okay. Like, let me talk to someone. We'll get you interviewed here. And I said, okay. So I go into like the big room, and it's like over 100 people in there, y'all, like 100 students. And I sit down and I'm literally crying. Like tears are falling from my eyes. If you know me, I would cry over anything. But this was something like really emotional. So I'm crying, I'm sitting there and I'm like this, and like tears are just flying. I'm not like, but I'm like just tears are falling because I'm like, I look around, I'm like one of the only black people. And I'm like, I already know, they're probably looking at me like black people always late, like stereotypical. So then I just felt discouraged. So I'm waiting for my time. Like at this time, like we're kind of mingling. We're just talking amongst ourselves as students, like getting to know the professors. And then they bring us to do interviews. And I was interviewed by the only black professor. And I was like, am I in there? Like what's, you know what I mean? What's going on? But after we never talked about that situation, like me and the professor, but when I was struggling like in physical therapy school, like he talked to me, he was like, I just want you to know that you're not getting special treatment. I'm like this with all my students. Like he was very clear on that. But our interview with him, and his personality is infectious. Like he is an amazing person. He's just so funny. He's hilarious, super smart. And so the interview went well. Like I felt really good after. Like I felt so good. So then I ended up getting waitlisted, and I got accepted in March in that the next year, because that was like December. So like March the next year I got accepted. And I was just so excited. I was so happy. But yeah, that was a whole testimony, like, because it was like, what's going on? So for me, I thought the hard part was getting accepted into PT school, but I was mistaken. I was mistaken. So my first semester, like it was just hard. I was doing a lot. I was 45 minutes from DC, and I had line sisters that stayed in DC. So I was always there, like every weekend. Like I was in DC, I was in Maryland, like just having a good time. I was also working at Red Lobster. So that was something. Back at home, things were going on. My grandmother was not doing well. She ended up transitioning to heaven. Like my during my first semester of PT school. So that was rough, but it was just a lot. It was a lot to handle, personal, and with my studies, it was a lot going on. So my grades reflected that. I had a 2.76 my first semester of physical therapy school. Then to go on, the second semester, I was like, I can do this. Like, it's gonna be fine. And I was doing amazing. Like my grades were increasing. Like my study habits were better. Like everything was going well. But I still got a 2.76 GPA, and I needed a 2.80, 2.80. So I ended up failing out of school. I had to petition to get back in. My petition was accepted. And once I got back into school, like everything from there, it wasn't smooth sailing, but I definitely was more confident, like with my skills. And I remember praying to God. I was like, I want to be the best physical therapist I can be. Like I never prayed to have a 100 on an assignment. I never prayed for like an A. Like my prayers was always, let me be the best physical therapist I can be. So when things started to get hard, I was like, wait a minute, I didn't pray for this, Lord. And he was like, yes, you did, because the places that I'm taking you and the patients that I need you to see, they don't require you to have an A in farm. They don't require you to have an A in MSK. They require you to have critical thinking skills, being able to analyze different situations, being able to have compassion, being able to communicate with different other healthcare professionals about what's going on with their case. They don't need you to have an A. They don't need you to have a 100. And I was like, okay, okay, Lord, I hear you. So he definitely prepared me during that season. And yeah, I'm so thankful. I'm so blessed, because now I get to reach out to other people who are struggling and who have failed out of physical therapy school, and they think it's the end of the world. And it's like, this is just another stepping stone to get you to your dreams, to reach your goals in life, to inspire people. There are other people on the other side of your yes. There are patients that are waiting for you to see them and to treat them, and you have to keep going, you know. And my spiritual leader, she told me, she's like, yes, physical therapy, this is your platform, but this isn't your calling. Your calling is to inspire people. Your calling is to demonstrate God's love. Your calling is to bring people to Jesus. Like that's your calling. And for me, it took me a long time to realize that. But I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful. And I feel like this episode needs a part two because I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's already been 30 minutes. But go get the book, y'all. Read the book. And I'm trying to make it an audiobook. Procrastination, that's what it is. But I really want to make it an audiobook so it's more accessible to everyone. But it's available on Amazon, and I go more in depth about how I overcame certain situations. And yeah, yeah. So for me, every episode I ended, what's my test? What's my testimony? And for me, definitely it was failing out of physical therapy school. Like, are you going to stay 10 toes down? Are you going to continue to reach your goals? Or are you going to be mad? Are you going to curse God? Are you going to be upset and you go do something else that is fulfilling, but it's not what you're supposed to do? So, that brought me to my testimony, being able to be a public speaker, be a mentor, reach out to people and help people in all aspects of life. And even with some of my patient cases, like I've seen patients who were born prematurely in the NICU over 200 days, and by the grace of God, I got to help them with rolling, sitting, standing, walking. Like some of my patients, they took their first steps with me. And it was just like, oh my gosh, so I know that my testimony has helped so many people in different areas and it's going to continue to help people. So I think I'm gonna have to do a part two, y'all. I don't know. But thank you all for listening to another episode of Testimony Thursdays. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all next week.